today on Classroom Dynamics.
But I think sometimes it's those simple words about have to versus get to. And I think if you built that environment of, I'm so happy you're here, that I get to be your teacher, those kids are going to want to go into that classroom. They're going to want to learn. You're going to trust one another. You're going to have respect for one another. You're going to care for one another. And you're building it also with the peers as well by building that collaboration, having them talk to one another, having them working together, and just building on that throughout the years. And hopefully, by the time they're in middle school, they do still feel like it is a privilege that I'm getting to go to school and I'm getting to learn.
Welcome to the place where ideas collide. Adam Todd's here to be your guide. For teachers and techies, chasing the spark. Classroom dynamics, where we leave our mark. Let's dive in deep, the future's bright. Innovation shines like morning light. Teachers and tech, hand in hand we go. Welcome to the Classroom Dynamics Show.
Classroom Dynamics is sponsored in part by Logitech Education, empowering student voice and creativity with innovative tools like the Logitech Reach Adjustable Content Camera and the Zone Learn headset designed specifically for student comfort and focus. Discover how Logitech is transforming classrooms at logitech.com/education. Welcome to Classroom Dynamics, the podcast where we unlock the future of education. Hi everybody, I'm your host Adam Todd, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Cheryl Abla and Lisa Maxfield, the authors of Teachables. No matter where you are in your teaching journey, there always comes a moment when you want to refresh your practice, but finding new engaging strategies can be incredibly time-consuming. Teachables meets that challenge head-on, offering practical research-informed ideas that you can use immediately. Authors Cheryl and Lisa have done all the groundwork for you, curating powerful strategies that help teachers build strong relationships, streamline classroom routines, spark curiosity, and set high expectations, creating classrooms where both teachers and students can truly thrive. And it's all coming up next on Classroom Dynamics, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Classroom Dynamics is brought to you in part by Higher Ground Gear and the Vaulted Cell Phone Pouch, the smarter, faster way to create phone-free classrooms. Built with military-grade construction, RF shielding, and a high-decibel Velcro closure that stops distractions before they start, Vaulted keeps learning focused and secure. No locks, no end-of-the-day bottlenecks, just durable, easy-to-clean protection that gives students what they need most: attention, connection, and calm. Upgrade your school's approach to distraction-free learning with Vaulted at Higher Ground Gear. For more information, visit hggear.com today or contact us at info@hggear.com.
Every student deserves a chance to succeed. At Catapult Learning, we close learning gaps through targeted tutoring, direct student support, and proven intervention programs. Our proprietary curriculum and our ability to customize with your district's materials ensure every child gets the instruction they need when they need it. For 45 years, Catapult's evidence-based model has transformed schools in New York City and across the nation. Catapult Learning, inspiring students, unlocking potential. For more information, visit us at catapultlearning.com.
My guests today say that most teachers acknowledge that students' academic motivation and success are affected not just by the content that you teach, but also by the classroom environment that you've created. Today is all about student engagement, relationships, and some amazing strategies to help you in your classroom, regardless if you're a first-year teacher or a seasoned veteran. To help us do just that, I'd like to welcome Cheryl Abla and Lisa Maxfield, authors of Teachables, a practical, teacher-friendly guide packed with ready-to-use strategies for boosting student engagement. Ladies, welcome to the show. I can't wait to talk about this book. I absolutely loved it. I know I emailed you when I was reading it that I couldn't put it down, and that was the case. It really is amazing. It really is packed with just a ton of great ideas and strategies. So welcome to Classroom Dynamics.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
So, Lisa, I want to start with you because you have a different angle as to how you got into education. And it's an interesting story because it's not really that traditional route that people will take. So because your story is so incredibly powerful and different, I want to get into all that cool stuff that how you got to where you are now, especially the fact that you never actually became a classroom teacher. So how did that experience shape your perspective on education? And why do you think it's so important for educators to hear voices like yours with stories that are coming beyond that traditional teaching route that we just kind of talked about? Because obviously your experience wasn't the same as other classroom teachers.
Right. So yeah, I never was a classroom teacher. I'm still a little sad about that sometimes. I do say I'm okay with it, but once in a while I get that little hint of, oh, I wish I could have. But what I did was I have spent my entire career working at educational organizations. And with both those organizations, there was a product where I was able to do classroom walkthroughs. So I've been in hundreds of classrooms, and I've also helped train teachers on instructional strategies. So I definitely have that different and unique perspective of being able to see a classroom from the outside looking in. And yes, it was definitely not traditional going in with working with educators, but it is a real passion of mine of being able to support them, supporting not only teachers, but the administrators, which ultimately affects the students. And that's what it's all about, is helping them. So I think having the different stories and the traditional path, I think being able to tell that to the teachers of what I'm seeing from those classroom walkthroughs and having that background in the research-based instructional strategies has kind of helped support them to be able to empower those students to strengthen the learning environment overall.
And I like how you mentioned like someone looking from the outside in. You do get a different perspective, and teachers, I think, welcome that, because sometimes when you're in it, you don't really necessarily see, even though you see it, there's something different when someone from the outside comes in and points something out that you definitely may not be aware of.
Definitely. Because a lot of times when doing those classroom walkthroughs, it was about then leaving feedback for them. This was wonderful. Have you thought about those types of things? Because like you said, they're in there every day, and maybe they're not noticing that kiddo at the back of the room who's looking like they're not paying attention, but you can see the wheels turning as they're, taking notes or they're drawing pictures, but they're still processing what they're hearing.
Cheryl, your journey is a little bit different as well. Can you paint a picture how that third grade teacher impacted your life? Because you have a great story with that one.
Well, I was put in a body brace when I was 6. So it was up under my chin and went all the way down to my hips because I had scoliosis. So pretty young. And I had a very rough first grade year, and second grade year was probably equally as difficult, just because I couldn't look down to see my desk. If I fell down, I couldn't get up. I was a little bit like a turtle. And so lots of little things that made school not so great. But my third grade teacher, Mrs. Wright, she right away just kind of took me under her wing and said, this is okay. We've got it. So with the help of our custodian and the principal, they created a really nice lift for my desk so that as I put my papers and my books there, I was able to see it. And where my pencil would go, little things that just made it okay. And just trying to make things as normal as possible, like PE, things like that. I could only take it off 30 minutes a day, and I had to sleep in it and all that good stuff. So
you're restricted. You're physically restricted the entire day. That has to hurt just learning, because you probably, right? It's just like a kid who has to use the bathroom, and a teacher keeps saying, hold on a minute, put your hand down, I'm not done yet. But that kid is not listening to you teach anymore because that kid has to pee. So that had to be the same thing with you all day long, where you're right. It has to be uncomfortable, and it had to have impacted your learning at some point.
It really did. And it made me not want to go to school at all. So, and then just the fact that so often it was just sit down and read, and I don't know. And just the whole feeling of being so different even at that early age. Thank goodness I wasn't in 7th grade in it, but still first, second grade, third grade was plenty at the time. I got used to it by the time I got to 8th grade and still had it on. But just the ability to go about the day. And Miss Wright was so careful to pull me into every conversation, to ask my opinion, to just include me in what we were doing in the classroom, which I had not felt yet, because I'm sure the teachers, neither one probably knew exactly how to help me. And I felt that way. In fact, my second grade teacher was like, I think she needs to be in, we don't say this anymore, but I think she needs to be in the special class because she can't look down at her desk. So, but just the lack of willingness to try, or, to meet with my parents to try to figure it out. And so it was not the very best start to.
But it obviously left a great impression that was very positive in the end, even though it wasn't probably, like you just said, the best situation to be in.
Right, exactly. I just thought more kids need a Miss Wright in their class, or a Miss Honey from Matilda.
And it wasn't even a lesson per se that you learned there, right?
No, it wasn't.
A life lesson, that just a normal situation that someone did something nice, and that's what you remember. You probably don't remember the math lesson that you were taught that day.
You're absolutely correct about that. But I do remember like cutting my bangs and they stuck straight up, and she gave me a bandana. And, it's just those little things that make a difference. And yes, and I thought that I want to try being somebody's, hero like that, and seeing them and hearing from them. So she was great.
Let's fast forward now 2 years later, where you get the almost complete opposite situation, right? So you talk in the book about a moment in your fifth grade year where and as I'll quote it here, your inner teacher felt the need to speak up. So how did that point in time help you shape the educator that you just obviously ultimately became then?
Well, I think that, and I shouldn't have done it this way, but I'm still kind of a vocal person when it comes to right and wrong in education, especially. But we had a teacher that loved to get us on our SRA lessons. And
I remember those. Ooh,
yes.
I remember those.
Sit at her desk, put her makeup on, her hair was all done up, and we would cheat completely on our SRA, grade our own papers, level up. And I just remember, and this happened a few times in second grade, but she had gotten on to one of my classmates. And I just simply had let her know that if she would actively teach us and do something with us, hands-on or something, we could learn something.
Maybe something positive would really happen, as opposed to you just grading your own work, right?
Exactly. And so she kindly took me out in the hall and said it would have been much better for me to address her one-on-one and not in front of the entire classroom. But
it changed something, though.
It did. Yeah. It did. Absolutely. And that motto I've always still take in when I'm teaching in classrooms or working with teachers. Just, you've got to be actively involved. It's got to be engaging. So yes.
I remember being in elementary school, and I think that's why I am the teacher I am today, because not that school was boring, but it kind of was at times. And I would say more times than not, I felt it was boring. And again, we didn't have technology, so that's a whole other ballgame. But I always felt, when I started to think about becoming a teacher, that if I ever did become a teacher, obviously I have now, I would absolutely, positively, no matter what it was, even on a really not so great, A kind of day, try to make it engaging and fun, because I didn't want my kids to sit there being bored or, just staring into space or daydreaming because I didn't provide that for them. So Teachables does that. It does help you with this. And it's filled with bite-sized strategies that lead to big results. Why was it important for you both to design the book this way? Because especially when you have teachers who are trying to drive themselves to improve their own craft, that's one thing. But you also have teachers who are burnt out, or they're just short on time. So what was it that made you think this was the right format for the book?
So Cheryl and I had been working together at the same organization, and we were putting together a guide that's had some different strategies. And we kept talking about them, and she would go out and do some trainings and come back and say, oh, these teachers just love this. They love this. And it kind of just morphed into, we need to put this together, because these teachers, they're tired. They don't have time to look up these things. They're burned out. And if we can put these strategies together for them to be able to quickly go in and see them, it's going to help them so much. So the design was to be able to help these teachers to save them time. And so that's why we have it broken down. Well, that we've got the 4 components, and then it's each strategy, and it has numerous recommendations. So there are recommendations as a teacher for 26 years, like you've been, that you're going to say, oh yeah, I've tried this. Oh, wait, that's a little bit different. I hadn't thought of that. Or I've done it, but that's just a different take on it.
That's exactly what happened with me when I was reading it. So that is true.
That is great. And that's what we were looking for. And so then these teachers are not having to go out and search for these new ideas. And one of the things we wanted with the book was that you didn't have to read 15 pages and then get to the end of the chapter and have a bullet list of, oh, maybe try these. We wanted to get right into it. So we have the short stories that we both wrote at the beginning, how to use the book, and then we get right into the components. And so really, you don't have to read it from cover to cover. You can literally open it up, turn to a page, and hopefully just find something new that you can try. And that was really our idea about it, is just trying to help these teachers because they have so much on their plate. How can we make their life just a little bit easier?
Yeah. Let's get into those components now, right? You just brought them up right off the bat, right on page 2. You outline those 4 components of, just a classroom. You talk about enthusiastic learning environments. You talk about relationships. You talk about organization and procedures and curiosity and engagement. You also have expectations in there, which is great, because that if you don't have that, then that's like the glue almost. So how did you land on these 4 components? How, when they're all combined, do they kind of come together to create that thriving classroom?
Well, starting with my own classroom, because I've been blessed to teach 1st grade through 12th, with the exception of 2nd grade, but primarily 4th, 5th, and 6th. And much like you, Adam, really trying to keep kids engaged, have fun myself. I want,
I think, and you know what? I think teachers forget about that part, right? They have to have fun themselves. It's a great point. It's a great point.
They do. And it's a place that we have to create where we're going to love coming to school each day. And the students will too, if we make it that environment where they want to come back each day. And I think that big piece of that is that engagement piece that we get to, but primarily that first important, that never to be forgotten, is that strong relationship. Mm-hmm. And going back to Rita Pearson's, kids don't learn from people they don't like. And the power of being seen and noticed and connecting, because sometimes, and we've all had teachers that are really warm and friendly and kind and loving, but maybe the rigor wasn't there, or some that were all rigor and the warmth wasn't there. So it's that happy medium of getting to know them and building that relationship from day one.
Do you guys have any recommendations for teachers that they can almost provide their own self-assessment in order to target the component that they may need a little fine tuning with, or they weren't really sure how to, attack it and make it better? Any suggestions for them?
I would say survey your students and ask some of those basic questions. Maybe it's, I always say mid-year is a good time to do that. Beginning of the year always, and at the end of the year. So that, what's working around, do you feel seen? Do you feel that I value your outside school interests and you as a person? And then, are you engaged in the classroom? Are you interested in what we're learning? Is there anything I can do or anything I need to know about you as a learner to help me meet your needs better?
I don't think teachers I think a lot of teachers would be afraid to do that.
I know. And I do say that. I say it is scary and you may not like all the answers.
I was going to say the same thing.
You will, if you see a common theme, if you see it 2, 3, 4 times, there's probably some validity to it. And
well, we asked the kids to do this all the time, right? We want you to right? The teachers always will ask the kids self-reflect on your work. We teach them how to do that. And so if you're not kind of modeling it yourself and doing it yourself, then that's a problem. I mean, I teach media arts technology. So I usually have, I rarely have a kid that doesn't want to be there. So it's a bonus and a feather in my cap. But, I love when I show them something and I know they want to be there and I know they're excited to be there. When you hear on the other side of the room, just arbitrarily a kid go, "This is so cool. This is so much fun." That's cool. That's what every teacher wants to hear when you're even not soliciting it. You're just hearing it by accident. It's in a conversation on the other side of the room, but they're so excited and loud, yet you hear it clearly. It's like, oh, okay, cool. This is great. You can kind of like just sit back and say, all right, I got this. This is fun.
And I think that's part of the creativeness that we want so badly as classroom teachers. We want to create something that they say just that, this is awesome. This is so cool. I didn't know this.
An authentic kind of way to just express what they're seeing and doing and loving at the moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the second one is really all about organization and procedures. And that one sounds kind of dry and boring. But once again, you paint the picture of if students don't know what to do from the minute they walk into the classroom, where's the pencil, where's the paper, where's, what's the bell work? If I was absent yesterday, where do I go to find that? Where am I going to, be seated? What do we do when we come to the carpet time? What do we do whenever it's 2 minutes before the class period's over? All those tiny little seconds that matter, and then getting them so smooth that if you were not in the room, the classroom would just continue on without you being there to tell the students what to do. But I think what happens is we want to get to the content, and I'm guilty of it. I want to teach these kids how to read. I want to get right into creating that website. They each need their website. Yeah. But how do you, making sure you take the time and practice. And when you're so tired of practicing, practice more, because they've got to get it down, time them. How fast did it take us to get into groups? Okay, we're going to do it faster tomorrow. So here's our time for today. We're going to practice it again tomorrow and see if we can shave off some seconds. But Did you ever find a teacher who you saw wasn't doing that or needed a little help, and you figured? Heavens, yeah.
Did you say something? Did you say something, or did you just let it be?
It was usually in that, like Lisa said, I love the way you're doing this. This is great, and I love the way you're doing. Have you thought about maybe having them practice?
Yeah, it's all how you say it.
Yeah,
really. We do it with the kids too.
And I kind of skipped over those 4 components are really from my own classroom, what Lisa knows about walkthroughs. And for the last 12 years now, being able to be on this side of it to really see what works in classrooms and in education, what's working really well. So that's how those 4 components came to be.
And teachers really do have to think to themselves. I know you mentioned a little bit of self-assessment and reflection and doing a survey, which is, I think, a fantastic idea. I would be okay doing it, but I could see some teachers being a little afraid to do it. But there also has to be a time where a teacher has to say to themselves, okay, this isn't working. What am I doing that I need to change? This isn't working. Mm-hmm. The kids are still not behaving when I do this, or they're still coming in running, or they're still, whatever the case is. There has to be a time where a teacher has to click in their head and say, okay, wait, I got to fix something, right?
Exactly. And a lot of times I'll go back to just to say that, are we affirming who's doing what right? Because it's such a simple thing that gets forgotten, but really noticing the students who are on task, doing what you ask, because so often we'll say, well, they can't even come in here quiet from recess, or they're not coming in after lunch, to 5th hour. But notice those that are, and point those out. You can try just, your brain flipping the switch a little bit and looking, I always call it looking for the flowers instead, what are the flowers, not the weeds, because you want to put your energy into what's working and then help the others come around and then really troubleshoot what that might be. The pencil sharpening issue, just have your dish of sharpened pencils and dull pencils. Nobody has to sit there and grind them.
It's the little things. It's the little things that matter. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into some advice, respect, and more about relationships. More with Lisa and Cheryl right after this. Attention educators, meet the Logitech Zone Learn, the classroom headset designed for learners and built for schools. Engineered for comfort and durability, the Zone Learn delivers crystal clear audio, helping students focus and fully engage during lessons, group projects, and online learning. Built to last, its modular design adapts to any classroom setting and ensures a reliable, distraction-free learning experience. With Zone Learn, your students can hear the difference, which helps boost learning. For more information, visit logitech.com/Zone Learn. Bullying affects every school, but together we can change the story. Box Out Bullying brings powerful bullying prevention education to life through engaging interactive theater that gets students thinking, participating, and learning in meaningful ways. Through dynamic school assemblies, classroom workshops, and training for educators and families, Box Out Bullying equips entire school communities with the tools to build empathy, confidence, and respect. Whether in person or online, these high-energy programs inspire students to be upstanders, not bystanders, and help create safer, more inclusive learning environments. Make your school a place where every student feels seen, supported, and valued. Box Out Bullying. Empower, include, respect. For more, visit boxoutbullying.com today. Welcome back to Classroom Dynamics, where today we're talking with authors Cheryl Abla and Lisa Maxfield, the authors of Teachables. Now, here's a big part of this story that we have to get into, right? And this is such a, I know teachers are going to listen to this and some are going to say, oh yeah, that's me. And other teachers are going to say, oh yeah, I don't like the teacher that does that. But here, stay with me for a second, because there's still this lingering advice that teachers should not smile until months into the school year. I mean, something I will smile. I don't believe in this. I know teachers who do this and say this and believe this, but you challenge that thinking by prioritizing relationships from day number one. So why do you feel that that kind of advice is just so outdated? And how do we do the trust and trust ourselves and really look at it and say, okay, if it's okay to smile, okay, I'm not giving anything away. It's okay. I can build that relationship all the same way. And just, especially on those first few days of school, the first few weeks of school, even the first couple of months, I know a lot of teachers that no, I'm not going to do it. So how does that actively strengthen a classroom versus smiling for once or twice during the course of the day or week? Where do you guys stand on that one?
Well, I still do hear teachers say that often, and it hurts my heart for one thing, because I think you're so missing out. There should be laughter from us and the students, and like going back to just creating that atmosphere that you feel welcomed and a part of. And a lot of times I think if you were going to a meeting or you were going to a conference and you were in a session and, right away they handed you a syllabus and they told you to sit down and listen and go through the PowerPoint and give you all the rules on what to do, what not to do, just how that feels to you, and thinking about students in that lens, and really helping teachers understand that schools shouldn't look like they did 100 years ago. We know better, so we do better.
Right.
And that it goes back to, it's got to be a joyful place, because when you're in the right headspace, you're able to learn. But if you're in a place where you feel like you might do something wrong or get the evil eye, you can't, it's not as safe as environment. And as a teacher, you have to be vulnerable too, if you want your students to take chances. And it's just really important to welcome them so that their brain can be ready to learn. Lisa, you could probably add on to that too, from what you've seen.
It's just like what you said. I think it's one of those where you put yourself in their shoes, like you just mentioned at a conference. Would you want to walk into a conference, a meeting, or a classroom and not have somebody welcome you and smile? I mean, that takes effort, right? To not smile at somebody, to not greet them. And that's just, in my opinion, kind of a negative tone, because I'm not going to want to go in there if the teacher's not smiling and doesn't seem welcoming at all. So I just don't understand why that would still even be talked about in 2026.
Right, because you're doing a whole classroom culture turnaround and putting a sad tone on your class. Like, why would you want that?
Right, exactly. I mean, it makes no sense to me. So, and Cheryl mentioned it earlier, Dr. Rita Pearson, if the students don't like you, and how are the students going to like you if you are not welcoming and you're not smiling and you're not enjoying the classroom? You want them to enjoy the classroom. Step back. Would you want to be in a classroom like that? No. So then why would you present a classroom like that?
Oh, can you imagine doing that 180 school days?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh. Think about that. No. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. No, I can't even imagine that, because, if you really think about it, that's your workplace.
Yeah.
That's your second home. And those are your kids that you see every day. You probably see them more than their parents during the course of the school year.
Mhm.
Why would you want that kind of thick aired environment for them? I just don't get it.
I don't
And
either. And you also, I was going to say, you also think about some, unfortunately, and it's a true statement, some of those kiddos are coming to school with that environment at home. So why would you then purposely do it? Because you've heard that that's a good thing to do
Mm.
when it's really not a natural thing to do. As an educator, you want to welcome and you want to be there for those students. You want to help them grow and learn, and you care about them. So why would you do that? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Cheryl?
Well, and I was just thinking when I'm in middle schools and high schools, like I was all last week and some this week, when you see those same exact students go from class to class and how they are completely different.
Uh-huh.
They're talking, they're creating, they're
Yep.
leaning in, and they're not with their hood kind of up and against the wall. And it goes back to that environment that teacher has created. So
I've even seen it where you can tell the difference from class, just who they're with, like how they act with others, just, with other teachers too, not so much in the, in the hallway. Yes. Cause they can be their kid self, but even with other teachers, sometimes a class will act completely different, so you can see the difference between how, they will interact with the teachers as well. And that brings in my next point, which is all about trust and respect, right? Because I think that naturally goes into it. And you reference this in a powerful quote from educator Timothy Hilton, who says that without trust and respect, no quality learning will happen. So what does that kind of relationship building really look like in practice then, especially for elementary schools? Because if you can do this in elementary school, those kids will automatically, as they're moving up through the system, they're a different person. But if you batter them in elementary school and you kind of confine them, they never become what they potentially could be because they're always afraid to take that step. So how does, with those first critical weeks of school, how does that work in that elementary level so that it can naturally, smoothly go up and grow as the kid gets older?
Smiling, welcoming. I mean, we can use Cheryl as an example. Can you imagine what it would have been like for Cheryl had she not had Miss Wright in third grade and she'd gone through all of her elementary school, not being able to do what she needed to do, not feeling welcomed in the classroom, not having the relationships with the teachers. I mean, we wouldn't probably be talking to Cheryl right now as an educator because she wouldn't have had that experience. So it's just,
or she would have been a really mean educator.
Yeah. And exactly. So I think it's critical in those first weeks of
People
school.
can't see. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I have to interrupt this because no one could see. Cheryl's laughing as I'm saying this. So I'm not putting her down. She would still be a nice person. She's not going to be mean. But yes, I mean, I'm just saying, like, that could, you never know how that could have changed. But I just wanted everyone to know that you are laughing at that comment. So, okay.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. It's just those first few weeks of school, they're just critical to just build that positive, safe, engaging environment. And it's about building those relationships. It's setting those organizations and procedures. You've got to get those down, like Cheryl mentioned earlier, with that well-oiled machine, right? You're going through it. The students know what to do, and then you can get on to the other thing, the content. And people might say, well, I don't have time, to waste. You're not wasting time, because if you do not get those procedures, if you don't get those relationships built, ultimately you are going to be wasting time throughout the rest of the school year because the students don't know what to do, or they don't want to be there. They're dragging their feet coming into the classroom. And I think it's a lot about building trust as well. And again, that safe environment. We're there to learn. We're going to all make mistakes. All of us are going to, and how are we going to build on those mistakes? And it's just that can-do attitude. It's the yet, right? We don't know this yet. It's all about helping to build those students up. And you're building that foundation from day one, first day of kindergarten. And you just want those kids to learn to love to go to school. So I always say to my grandson who's in kindergarten, I always say, you get to go to school today. Not you have to go to school. You get to. And the other day I said to him, I said, you get to go to school. I said, because there are children in this world who do not have the privilege and get to go to school. And he said, they don't. And I said, no. And he said, when I grow up, can I help them so they get to go to school? And I said, you betcha you can. But I think sometimes it's those simple words about have to versus get to. And I think if you built that environment of, I'm so happy you're here, that I get to be your teacher, those kids are going to want to go into that classroom. They're going to want to learn. You're going to trust one another. You're going to have respect for one another. You're going to care for one another. And you're building it also with the peers as well by building that collaboration, having them talk to one another, having them working together, and just building on that throughout the years. And hopefully, by the time they're in middle school, they do still feel like it is a privilege that I'm getting to go to school and I'm getting to learn. Sure, every single class you're not going to love, every single subject you maybe aren't going to love, but it's helping you to build a well-rounded person, to learn some of these things that you're learning, and just the joy of learning, the joy of school. I wish it was in every classroom in every school building. The kids love to go there and the teachers love to go there, loving their job, and they're excited every day. And I think that can show if they are. And I think having some of the strategies from Teachables that we've put in there can help build that in case a teacher is thinking maybe they've lost it. They haven't. Just go back and look at some of these things. And even if it is January and your kids maybe don't have all those procedures down, it's not too late. It's never too late. Start it tomorrow and say, I'm going to do this. It can kind of feel like maybe a reset, right?
Right.
Or even the
Procedures are so
relationships.
big.
Gotta do it.
Yeah. No, if you don't have those procedures, and I spent so much time on procedures in the beginning of the year, because you hit the nail on the head. I don't want to spend 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, another couple minutes here, another 20 minutes. I don't want to do that over the course of the year. It drives me nuts. I want to make sure everyone knows and has those basic expectations, those procedures from the get-go. I think that's the most important. I think that's one of the things I've talked to new teachers about the most, is have those procedures, have that expectation. The kids should know what they're doing. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. I mean, again, 180 school days, you don't want to be doing that 180 school days. You want to take a good 2 or 3 weeks in the beginning of the year, really nail it down, really get the rhythm going, and then you can start teaching. Take the time. Yes, you're gonna teach lessons, but take the time with the procedures. It can make your life a whole lot easier. So you guys in the book, and it was a perfect segue. You were talking about some of just like the things that teachers could use from the book. You guys include several above and beyond sections. What was the intention behind those, and how can teachers use them to strengthen their practice without feeling overwhelmed? Because I think some teachers might say, oh, above and beyond sounds like it's above and beyond, right? Like I'm doing my job. I'm teaching the lesson, but I don't want to feel overwhelmed. So how does your Teachables above and beyond differ from what teachers would think as the normal workload of above and beyond?
Sure. So it really is just going to help them maybe stretch their skills a little bit and dig just a little bit deeper into that strategy. So there are QR codes throughout the book, and you click on it, it goes to our website, and there might be a 60-second video on do now, right? You walk into the classroom, here's the students. So we tried to find short articles or short videos that are going to show a little bit more instead of just reading, because we all learn differently. So sometimes people reading it are like, I don't quite get it, but let me look. Because of course there's some great Edutopia ones, which we have links to those, some of those as well. And we are always adding links as well. We've already added some new videos. There are a few videos that are longer, and those might just be, some of them are a little like more funny or more emotional, but we did in the book also put, so you know ahead of time. So you're not like, I'm going to click on this. Oh, it's going to be a 20-minute video. No, we told you it's going to be a 2-minute video. So it's only going to take you a couple of times. And it just might, again, help the teacher stretch just a little bit, or have a little deeper understanding, or just the example of being able to see what this above and beyond is. There are some that are a little bit bigger, But as you go into it and you look, you can think, maybe not right now, but I'm going to put this on my list that I can maybe do either in the spring, or maybe that's something for next year. But now I've got it in my brain that that might be a really great, engaging way to get the students engaged. I said engaging twice there, but
well, that's what we want.
Nice.
We want them to be. You want to listen, and it's a great point. You don't have to apologize for saying it, because teachers want to be engaged too. You know, we try to get the kids engaged in our lessons, but if your teacher is not engaged in prepping for those lessons, you're not going to get the engagement with your kids. It's a domino effect, trickle down effect, however you want to call it effect. It is what it is. It is engagement.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we're going to take another final quick break here. And when we come back, we'll wrap things up with the authors of Teachables, Cheryl Abla and Lisa Maxfield. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. Looking for teaching resources that truly engage and inspire your students? Discover Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers, your go-to source for ready-to-use lesson plans, interactive notebooks and lapbooks, test prep passages, and meaningful small group projects. Designed by educators for educators, these resources save you time while boosting student motivation and learning. Highly Motivated, motivating teaching resources that engage and inspire. For more, search Highly Motivated on Teachers Pay Teachers today. Welcome back to Classroom Dynamics, Organization and Procedures. We've talked about highlighting that in the book, and many teachers, myself included, feel that this really is a non-negotiable, and how many teachers, have to figure out their day and how to make a smooth day run. Because it's such a non-negotiable, why does this remain such a critical focus behind educational relationships? What is it with the procedures and the expectations that we've already spoken about become the background of that educational relationship that we have with our students?
Well, one of the jokes I often say is you can have the cutest Pinterest classroom that everybody's like, this is so inviting and wonderful. But if you can't find where you put your copies, or the kids don't know that they have to do their lunch choice when they come in the morning, or there's bell work, it just does not set the tone for the rest of the class period or the day. So helping, I just think it's so important that nothing is left to chance. Every single thing has been thought through and about, and not saying that I was perfect at it all the time. Even when I'm in classrooms now, I'm like, now where did I put that expo marker? Where's my own whiteboard? But if you have things kind of laid out and ready to go, the students feel that too. And I know this sounds kind of silly, but not, because I've noticed what a difference it makes. And it sounds trivial, but it's all part of that tone and environment, is having students take ownership of their workspace too, and having everything in its place. Things in the corner, things in front of them. When they come back elementary for the next class period, they've gone to specials, lunch, whatever. Things have been cleared away, put away, desks are back where they were. We're ready to learn again. We're ready to go forward. And even with middle school, when you have them, in high school, when you have you move desks, or they're working on a project with the computers or whatever, making time to stop before class is dismissed, or right as the bell's being ready to let them go, and just get the room ready for the next group coming in.
I can't teach unless it's organized. That's me. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there shaking their head in their car right now as they're listening.
I know.
If that room is not neat, and I am kind of a neat freak, but I'm not. But I am at the same time when it comes to my classroom, because you're right. If you don't have that set up, it could really ruin your day. It's a nightmare, and you can't teach, because you're thinking, like you just said, where did I put it? Where you always should have your spots, right? And even have the kids learn where your spots are, because sometimes I've asked the kids, and has anyone seen where I put my, laptop? I had it here a minute ago. I mean, they know where the spots are. So I can't teach unless it's organized. And
it's been fun and funny in the same breath to work with teachers and be able to say, because I have to build strong relationships with teachers so they trust me as I'm in there, I can say, hey, can I try this thing I learned, last night? And they hand over their class to me. But I love it when I can say, I feel like part of your anxiety that we've talked about could be that all these things that are at the back of your room, you see them, you can't walk around back there. The shelves or books are over. How many times that either the teacher and I have spent time rearranging together, or I've said, when I come back next month, I really want this moved over here or here. The number of desks I've moved with teachers, but to help them know or help them discover that you were so right. My anxiety has gone down. I didn't even know it. But I'll even say, go get some tubs. Get some tubs, put your things in it, label it, and put it to the side. Simple little things that, because we have students in our classrooms that feel the same way you and I do, Adam.
Yep.
It's like we don't realize maybe that it's giving us a little anxiety, but it does.
It does.
And when it's cleared off and our brains are almost more welcome to think, because
declutter your classroom for sure.
Yes.
Declutter your classroom. If you haven't used it in like 3 or 4 years, you're not using it, get rid of it, do something different. It never hit the mark where you wanted to go back to it, right? So there's no reason to pile it up on the back shelf.
Exactly.
And
if you're not going to,
I can't teach like that. I just can't teach like that.
Yes.
I've seen teachers who teach like that. I can't teach like that. On page 64 and 65, you guys focus on positive language and choosing words thoughtfully, using a quote instead of try format. And I love this part of the book. Why is language and just the way we deliver that language such a powerful instructional tool? And how can small shifts in wording and delivering those words lead to bigger changes for students, even with behavior and, kids who have IEPs and are learning a second language? How does that all change the mindset for not only the teacher, but then the kids too?
I think just building a positive, thoughtful language is showing that you respect the kids. It's safe. So again, we're just going with the positive. Unfortunately, again, I'm going to say it again. Not everybody has positive language at home. So you bring it into school and you're showing that positive. You're showing the trust, the positivity, the caring.
And you're not feeding into what they already know and they see a difference.
Right, exactly. And I mean, it's small things like instead of saying no or that's wrong, it could be that's an interesting approach. Let's build on it. Let's see what we've got. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, we all make mistakes, but that's a learning opportunity. So instead of just, no, you're wrong, because that right there is going to put up the defensive, something's going to come up a wall, defenses are going to come up. Oh, I'm stupid. I don't understand this. I'm always wrong. But instead it's, let's turn that a little bit. We don't know it yet. We're going to build on that. And I
love that. Say that again. We don't know that yet.
We don't know
Great
that
line.
yet.
Yes.
Yeah. And we don't, right? There's so many things. And even as a classroom teacher, you don't know everything. You're still learning, or hopefully you are, or you should be. You're learning new things, and you're also learning them probably from your students as well, some of the things they know. But I just think over time, changing that, what could be seen as a negative way and changing it to positive is just going to shift that environment again into that positive. And it's not, oh, you're the greatest. I mean, it's not like all of that where you've got to overdo it with them, but it's, let's just talk about how we can have this positive environment and speak respectfully to one another, be kind. And again, we're all going to say things that are wrong, but we don't have to say you're wrong. No, because once some of those students hear that, they are going to shut down. They're going to think, I'm just never going to get this. But
right. And they're never going to try for the second time anyway.
Right. But if you've got that teacher who's supportive and like, you know what, this is tricky. Let's break it down and let's look at it in a different way. Because again, we don't all think the same way, right? I remember having a geometry teacher that would say, like 80 times during the class period, because the kids who understood geometry were doing tally marks. Those of us who didn't get it, I'm pointing to myself, I kept thinking in my head, no, I don't know. And because this teacher understood geometry so well, he was unable to break it down for me to get it. So I left that classroom every day thinking I was stupid. And this isn't respectful, but I would throw that geometry book in the evenings because I was so frustrated.
And you probably didn't like the teacher either. You didn't like the teacher.
Probably not. I just remember just shut, like you just said earlier, shutting down because I wasn't getting any kind of positive reinforcement, even a little bit of, okay, Lisa, you've got this. So let's break it down and look at it a different way. So
Yeah,
I think
you don't want the kids going home and resenting you because you couldn't give that to them. And they might, like you said, they may not be coming from a house where it's given to them. This might be their only opportunity during the course of the day, and you're adding fuel to the fire that is already at home.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. This is I know the answer to this. It's kind of a loaded question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What are the effects of a student, whether it's long-term, years out, or short-term right then and there and that night where the kid goes home, who has a teacher who they see as being mean or unapproachable? What does the teacher have to consider and take, almost that retrospective look and self-assessment look at themselves to do to change that, when they may not necessarily know that they're mean or unapproachable, or they're belittling a kid because that's their personality? What's that short and long-term effect on a kid?
I just think that the way a teacher approaches a student can make or break them. And having those high expectations and belief that they can actually learn and be successful, students can sense that without you ever even saying the words. They know that you like them or you don't. And I think about myself and others that have had, and they have been mean teachers. My little nephew in first grade had D's and F's on his paper because he wasn't writing his name neatly, and just had to stay in at recess and little things that were done and
talk
said.
about turning the kid off to learning altogether, right?
100%. He's a freshman in high school, and he still
remembers it.
He just hasn't come out of it yet. It's all about how we create a safe space for students to feel validated and worthy of our time and energy, and meeting them where they are, and really helping build a belief in them that they can learn. And if they don't learn like everybody else, what are we going to do about that? And how are we going to change it? When I go back to because mean teachers, they still exist, they do. And I often say, would you put your own child, niece, nephew, grandchild in that classroom? And if not, what are we going to do about it to make it where we would? And sometimes, this isn't me because I've been in, this is longer than you, Adam, quite a bit longer. I would say maybe teaching is not the career for you, because we are in the business of students and people. And we are here to help students get better and to learn. And to do that,
you can't inspire that, right? If you can't inspire that child to become something amazing, that child is not going to be the one taking care of you one day when you're older.
So true.
And they're in the workforce, and they're the ones creating the technology or the brand new drug that's going to save your life one day. Sometimes we don't think about those things long term.
No, but oh my goodness. Or they're fixing your food for you. That's how.
In which case, you better have been nice to them if that's the case.
Exactly. How mean were you?
We have about 2 minutes left. Tell me, both of you, just give everyone just one really good piece of advice that, from the book, if you want, right straight from it, that's something that they could try immediately to kind of help them out.
I have to go back to, it's not too late in the school year. If you're listening to this right now and you're feeling like you're not building relationships with your students, you don't have the organization and procedures. And I'm focusing on those two because I do think you need those before you get to the curiosity and engagement and the high expectations. You've got to have that. It's not too late. Start it now. Try that survey that Cheryl mentioned earlier. It doesn't have to be long, maybe just 1 or 2 questions, and be open to what the feedback is. Because as an educator, you want to be the best that you can, and getting that feedback from your students might be very powerful. If you're not at that step just yet, then maybe ask a colleague or your principal or a mentor, or even just record your classroom and watch it. But do some self-reflection. Like you mentioned earlier, is we ask our students to self-reflect. Let's do it for ourselves, because once you start doing that, and you might make just a couple of little tweaks, you might see a couple of strategies from the book, and it might make a huge difference. You want to make those differences in those kids' lives. You want to make it in your own. You want to be happy, joyful classrooms.
Cheryl?
And I would say that it's kind of twofold. One of them is just keep in mind the person doing the talking is doing the thinking and learning. So if you are exhausted as an educator at the end of the day, maybe you've talked and you know your content really well, but do your students. And student talk is so critical. Another piece to that is words alone do not convey any meaning. If we don't do something with it, engage into that content, we will not remember it or learn it. So I know it takes time to do a little group work, to do some mixed pair shares, some collaboration, but we have to go back to, are we covering the content or are we teaching and the students are learning the content? So how important it is to include talking structures in every lesson every single day.
Great words of advice from both of you. Thank you. As you could tell, there are so many practical ideas, powerful insights, and classroom-ready strategies packed into Teachables that we just obviously couldn't figure and pack everything in, cover it all today. But, we tried, and we never know, we might have a part 2 to this, but it's okay, because Cheryl Abla and Lisa Maxfield have totally and truly created a fantastic go-to guide for you guys, all the educators out there that are busy, who want to make a meaningful impact without reinventing the wheel, so to speak, but to really build on what they've already been doing. The book Teachables is a resource that you're absolutely going to reach for again and again for bite-sized strategies on relationships, organization, engagement, and high expectations. Before we go, let's tell everyone where they can go to find out more about you guys, where they can even pick up a copy of the book, and all the social media that you have out there.
You get the book at Amazon, of course, and Barnes and Noble. And you can also do bulk ordering through Dave Burgess Incorporated. So DBC Incorporated. You can do bulk orders through there. Bulk orders through there. And then Cheryl and I both have LinkedIn with our names, and we have Twitter, Instagram, which is teachables_book, or you can email us directly at teachablesbook@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to chat with you or answer any questions that you have.
Well, for those of you who have been listening, thank you for tuning in today, and make sure that you share what you've learned or any takeaways or reflections that you've had, and tag us on X at Class Dynamics or Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. You can also find out all of our links, including information about our sponsors, on our link tree at Classroom Dynamics, because we always look forward to hearing your thoughts on our episodes and sharing the different ways in which you're using what you've learned. More importantly, share this episode with one colleague who you feel can benefit from today's show. Again, I'd like to thank Cheryl Abla and Lisa Maxfield, the authors of Teachables. Amazing book. Go out and get it. Thank you for joining us today on Classroom Dynamics, and of course, just the amazing conversation and the time that you gave up today to talk about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Classroom Dynamics. I hope today's conversation sparked something meaningful for you, maybe a new idea, a fresh perspective, or just a little boost of motivation to take back to your classroom. Remember, it's never too late to strengthen your craft, and if there's ever a moment to re-energize your work, why not make it today? I'm Adam Todd, and you've been listening to Classroom Dynamics, a teacher podcast. Follow us on X at Class Dynamics and on Instagram at Classroom Dynamics Podcast. If you haven't already, go to your favorite podcast platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'll be back soon with more captivating conversations, inspiring stories, and strategies that you can implement into your everyday routines. Until then, keep that spark alive and never underestimate the incredible impact you have as an educator. You're more powerful and inspirational than you think. Did you miss our episode Beyond Yet, How to Create a True Growth Mindset Culture in Your Classroom? If so, join me as I welcome Annie Brock and Heather Huntley, authors of the Growth Mindset Coach 2nd Edition. They'll share realistic strategies for building a true growth mindset culture in your classroom, which are packed with practical, classroom-ready strategies that you can start using tomorrow.
Our goal is just to talk about how can you foster a growth mindset? How can you put yourself in that growth mindset or create an environment where kids can readily get into that mindset to help them make their learning as successful as possible.